Somehow, the Super Cassette Vision achieved another video game milestone. Dragon Ball, Dragon Daihikyou, released on September 27, 1986, which means it's the very first video game based on Dragon Ball. At the time of this recording, there's been over 100 Dragon Ball video games, and no sign of it ever stopping. Epoch must have been rushing to get this game on shelves before they lost the license, because the second Dragon Ball-based video game was released just 2 months later, Bandai's Dragon Ball for the Famicom. One of these two games sold over 1 million copies. It wasn't the Super Cassette Vision one. Dragon Ball, of course, is the single most popular Japanese media franchise in the world. It's all about Goku, a hapless everyman who winds up with an entire harem of alien girls living with him and competing for his affections. The title of the game can be translated as The Great Dragon Hinterland, and it doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on. The goal of the game is to collect all 7 Dragon Balls, summon the dragon, and then look at him for a couple of seconds before you start the next loop. They're really not doing a whole lot with the license here. The game is a shoot-'em-up, very much in the style of Namco's Xevious. Hitting the left button will swing Goku's staff in front of him, while hitting the right button will perform a Kamehameha, which will go out a short range in front of him, and then drop to the ground. Destroying objects on the ground, and every object is destroyable, is how you find additional things to collect. And here's where we're getting into one of the major issues with this game. It violates one of the cardinal rules of shoot-'em-up design. There's a lack of consistency in behavior. This applies to the items that you collect, where sometimes an icon will do something, and sometimes it just won't do anything. It also applies to enemies who have multiple attack patterns, and you really won't know which one they're using until it's too late. Is that enemy going to go straight ahead, or is it going to turn when it gets close to you? You just can't know. Consistent behavior is one of the ways that shoot-'em-ups play fair with people. Once you've seen how something works, it should work that way every time, and that way you can integrate it into how you're playing. But if you don't know if an icon is going to blow up all of the enemies on the screen, or just give you some points, then it makes it hard to know what you should do. The most common item you'll come across is food. As Goku flies around, his attacks become weaker and weaker, getting less and less range, but collecting food replenishes that. The only enduring power-up that you can collect is this up arrow. Before you collect it, your movement is limited to about the back quarter of the screen, though it's hard to tell because the hitboxes in this game are horrendous. Once you collect the up arrow, then you can move much further ahead on the screen. So without it, there's a lot of enemies, particularly ones with ranged attacks, that you won't be able to hit, which makes this just another bad game mechanic. The other thing that you'll collect are Goku's friends. They could either be worth points, or they could do something. Gotta collect them to find out what they do. Collecting the pig Ulan might destroy all of the enemies on the screen, and collecting the helmeted Gyumao may cause Goku to continuously fire Kamehameha blasts. Collecting Yamcha might give Goku a small speed boost, and then for the rest of them, I'm not really sure. I don't have a manual and couldn't find one, so they might not do anything at all. If you spot Roshi, and then go to him, the game will turn into a side-scrolling fighting game, where the left button kicks and the right button punches. You each start with 20 health, and if you can knock him out, then you'll power up the Kamehameha. You can do this twice, but the second time that you take on Roshi, he'll use the Kamehameha on you. There's one more friendly character that appears, and that's Bluma, and she'll sometimes pull in to throw a capsule to Goku, and these capsules are only worth extra points. There's one other significant item that you could collect, but you don't want to. It's the word end, and when you touch it, your game is over, instantly. No matter how many lives you had left, you're done. You start the game with 3 lives, and Goku has 5 energy per life, losing 1 energy anytime he gets hit. The only way to restore energy is to clear a stage, and there's 4 stages total. At the end of stages, you'll go into this loop where you have to destroy buildings that you're flying over. And this is your opportunity to obtain one of the Dragon Balls. As the first Dragon Ball game, Dragon Ball Dragon Daihikyou is extremely collectible. You're going to have to spend more than 10,000 yen if you want a copy of it. You really don't want a copy of it though. This is one of the worst playing shoot-em-ups I've ever had to endure. It's sluggish, unpleasant, and infuriating. Until you get that power-up that lets you cover the screen, you're at the mercy of where enemies appear. At least you have the ability to deflect shots, assuming the pole swing goes correctly. But even once you can move around, Goku still handles like a snail on flypaper. And his hitbox is much smaller than the Cloud, but much too large for maneuverability to be very effective. The way that the Kamehameha works, where it shoots out a little bit in the air and then suddenly drops to hit things on the ground, just makes targeting anything with it annoying, regardless of what elevation it's at. Dragon Ball Dragon Daihikyou feels like Epoch didn't know what to do with the license. So they just smashed some graphics that look like popular characters into a pre-existing game format. And the result is just awful. If it wasn't for the historical importance to the license, no one would remember this one at all.